these days are different. Gen Z is walking away from the American dream, at least from the parts that used to define the American dream. Marriage, kids, the white picket fence, those are all out the window. Gen Z voters were asked what success means to them. The numbers are striking. Only 6% of Gen Z women who voted for Kamala Harris said marriage defined success. 51% listed a fulfilling career as the #1 thing. 29% of Trump-voting Gen Z men said marriage was the key to their success. 34% of young male Trump voters say their #1 priority for success is having kids, compared to just 6% of young female Harris voters. Those numbers should worry you. When people stop believing in the American dream, suddenly tearing down America gets a lot easier. With us now, Emily Sturge, reporter for Campus Reform, and Yemisi Egbewale, former Biden White House press office chief of staff. Ladies, good to see both of you. Yemisi, start with you. What came first here? Telling women that career should be more important than family, or becoming Democrats?
Well, I think a lot of economic independence and financial freedom has probably spurred a lot of young women. I mean, my family's Nigerian, and culturally you grow up, you live with your parents until you're married. I told my parents, at this rate, I don't know, I don't think I want to live with you until I'm 40. I mean, we had shows growing up like Sex and the City and this big dream of you get in your 30s, you move to the big city and you develop a career. And when those kinds of things permeate the culture, they leave an impact on a lot of young women.
Yeah, so Emily, I thought that was interesting, is that the people who said that the highest percentage who said having kids was the most important thing are men voting for Trump. Men.
It's very interesting, but I want to look at the big picture here, okay? I think the media is painting this narrative that there's this huge chaotic gender gap. Both the left and the right is painting that picture, but I think they're getting a couple of things wrong there. Look, these polls...
The media never... No. The media never gets things wrong.
Let's talk through it. Look, I think these polls take young conservative women like me, throws us out the window, completely discredits young independent voters. And if there's one thing that we know that Gen Z hates, identity politics. Hates being put in a box, hates being told what to say, how to think. That's exactly why Gen Zers showed out in the polls in November and voted for President Trump. Look, when we look at the other statistics in this poll, when we took out politics, look past the headline of this gender gap, and when NBC asked both Gen Z men and women about what their markers of success were, they said the same things, the exact same things. They said financial independence, having a stable career, which in the end does for many of those Gen Zers translate to the American dream, wanting to buy a home and start a family.
I understand. So
big picture here.
Okay, but you made a good point about what's happening to women. Braden Sorbo, have you heard of this guy?
Of course.
He has a show called The Truth and Liberty Show. I have never watched it, and after you see it, you might understand why.
I would much rather give up my one right to vote if it meant 10,000 liberal women wouldn't be allowed to vote, so that we could return our country to a better place. Because what we have to realize is women controlled the House, which means they controlled the vote of their husbands.
Are you saying women shouldn't have the right to vote?
Yes.
Oh, evidently he was a guest on the show. I can't imagine that does much for young Republican women.
The left is pushing, and he's showing that the left is pushing this idea that Republicans are saying that all women need to be in the kitchen.
But he's not from the left.
I know. Yes, of course, there's some people on the right like this, but the left is constantly pushing this idea that all Republicans are saying that women need to be in the kitchen. But look, these polling numbers showed that young women who voted for Trump, some of their #1 things were career goals, financial independence, and having children was not even the highest thing on their list either.
You know what I would say? What if women did have the priority of marriage and children, but the quality out there just wasn't meeting the moment? I think if you live in Washington, D.C., you might say, yeah, there's a reason why marriage and kids is about 8 or 9 on my list, and owning a home and economic independence is 1 or 2, because some of those markers are a bit closer to get through in the culture that we live in, right? Everything is transactional. It's online. Meeting people isn't like how our parents did it. People don't meet at church and in community centers and these third spaces.
But isn't that because the idea of the importance of family and church and community centers has been torn down?
I think building community is still a value that people hold. I just think the ways to get about it has changed so much. I mean, I think that we've kind of erased a lot of the intimacy of getting to know someone in a way that's authentic.
Well,
authentic because we meet everybody online. But okay, so Love Thy Nader Hulu show I think you pointed out what the idea of being in your 20s has changed greatly. Take a listen.
I just quit my job.
Are you friggin' serious right now?
I'm a free agent now. I'm entering my micro-retirement.
What the hell is a micro-retirement? You're 26 years old. What are you talking about?
Dad, my generation, we can't just stick to one thing forever. We have micro-retirement so that we can figure out what we're good at and pursue that full-time.
Has Gen Z had it too easy?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Okay, first off, I want to bring some hope. We're talking about young people meeting each other. Look, just in the past 8 months of this administration, I've reported, as a reporter for Campus Reform, that there's a revival that Gen Z is leading in conservatism, and a lot of it goes back to looking for tradition and order in society, looking toward Christianity, looking toward the church. So there are some Gen Zers meeting each other.
Is that a danger for Democrats, though? If Republicans are providing that idea of traditional family, of community, of values that you said people are searching for?
No, not from my viewpoint. I mean, the most religious demographic in the United States has always been African Americans, and within that community, black women are the most have the highest church attendance, and a lot of black women are going to church, and they're just not meeting the men there. So I think attendance for church, especially, has grown amongst women. I think it's climbing for men.
Very interesting perspective. Has Gen Z had it too easy? It's a pretty tough labor market out there. We're seeing that. I'm a Gen Zer, and we're seeing that only 12% of college graduates actually secure a job before they graduate. But also, we need to look back at the workplace behaviors of Gen Zers. I've reported that 77% of Gen Zers have brought a parent to a job interview.
What?
Yeah, I know. I know. Some pretty shocking.
How do you get this number? Okay, come on.
It's some pretty shocking stuff. And we've also reported that interviewers, hiring managers, have reported that 6 in 10 Gen Zers grab their phone during an interview. So we're seeing some sort of disrespectful behaviors, unprepared behaviors in job interviews, which is also something that Gen Zers, I think, need to course correct on.
Did Democrats take Gen Z for granted in this last election? And if so, how do you get them back?
I think that's a great point right there, because I want to talk about young men. Democrats lost young men because for years and years, we basically told them that they didn't matter.
Do we have to say young white men, or do we just say young men in general?
We can say young white men, but we're also losing young black men, so I don't want to leave them out of this, because
Okay,
we got to grab them back.
It's a bigger problem. Go ahead.
So for a long time, right, we told them that they didn't matter, and they found spaces where people talked to them.
Instead, they mattered.
Instead, they mattered. Podcasts that are now, right, when podcasts were coming out, a lot of Democrats didn't pay attention to them, and they thought, that's just fringe media. Now podcasts are some of the most listened and consumed to media for news, for personal entertainment. And so I think they've got to find ways in order to grab men back, and that starts with doing less of the identity and who has a seat at the table and more about what do you care about. And what you care about is owning a home. You used to get married and own a home. Nobody does that anymore. People get married and they go to the apartment that they rent.
The left didn't just tell young men that they didn't matter. The left told young men that they were toxic, that they were evil, that they were the worst part of society. So it makes sense why so many young men shifted to the right during this election. And also, I think we're seeing young women also who were shifting to the right this election because, look, their spaces were under attack. Their bathrooms, their locker rooms, their private spaces were under attack. Their sports teams. So I think it was among both genders, of course, yes, more among young men this past election.
All right. Emily and Missy, thank you both very much. Fantastic panel. They will be back. I don't know if I will. You don't even need me with these two ladies.